Now I'd like to discuss the relevant effects for us individually. And I'll start with the equalizer. We have a 3-band equalizer, and each band can be turned on and off. For the minute, we have this peaking band. This is represented with these control points. And if I click on them with the left mouse button, then I can move them. We can also see that the values change here in this line. I could, of course, directly adjust them here. With this, I can specify a specific frequency area, for example, something around 1000 Hz. And now I could, for example, lower everything that is in this frequency region. Or if I go above the 0 line, I can raise everything within that range. So I can choose specific frequencies and raise or lower them. I can specify the bandwidth with these arrows here. So, for example, I could use a wide bandwidth to adjust everything around 1000 Hz, or I could work much more surgically by specifying a very small bandwidth. This is also called the Q factor, and with a very small bandwidth, you can adjust specific frequencies in much more detail. So that's the basic way to use the equalizer. As said, that was the peaking band. We also have a high shelf, and this works somewhat differently. The way this works is that everything from the specified frequency will be either raised or lowered. This can be somewhat useful when dealing with speech, as you can add brilliance to the sound by giving it somewhat more brightness. I'll show this with an example. And so I adjusted it very strongly so that you could clearly hear the difference.
This is an example for voice-over recording.
I certainly wouldn't use such a strong adjustment, as the sound would become much too sharp and harsh. So usually I would just specify a small adjustment to add some brightness to the overall sound. Of course, this is all dependent on what microphone and what voice you are adjusting. In much the same way as the high shelf, we also have a low shelf, and with this we can adjust the low frequencies. And with this, I could specify a Q factor that means that the frequencies below my start point are very much reduced, as this would help get rid of hum or low-end noises. This can be especially useful when using microphone recordings that were recorded on location. However, of course, we should also be careful not to do too much here, so that you don't take away too much of the actual spoken word. And once again, I'll play this so that you get a better idea.
This is an example for voice-over recording. One more voice-over recording.
Yes, and you probably noticed that if I adjust too far upwards with the low shelf, then part of my actual signal is cut off and the speech sounds very thin. I'd probably wish to cut everything below 100 Hz, as there wouldn't be much speech in that section, but there would be all the hum and the low-end noises that we would like to reduce. The next module we have is the reverb module. Also here, I'll adjust it so that we can hear a very strong change.
This is an example for voice-over recording.
Of course, that was exaggerated, unless you wanted to use it as a special effect. But for my taste, that was much too strong. Practically speaking, you just want to use this effect subtly, so that you don't actually notice it's being used, but it gives a natural ambience to the voice.
This is an example for voice-over recording. This is an example for voice-over recording.
At this point, I'd like to give a small tip. If I'm working on a specific region of an audio clip, then it might be useful to hear it in a loop, so that I don't have to keep restarting it. And I do have this possibility. If I mark the clip I'm working on and then press the Z key, then I specify a loop region for this clip. And now I simply have to activate the loop option, and then this region will be played over and over again. And in doing so, I can adjust my effect to get the perfect settings. I'll demonstrate this, and to do this, I'll adjust my loop region so that it's playing the section I really want, and then I have to press loop here so that the loop is active.
This is an example for voice-over recording. This is an example for voice-over recording. This is an example for voice-over recording.
Yes, and that's a very useful function when setting up effects. Having the section you wish to affect playing in a loop allows you to set the effect up uninterrupted. I'll do the same with the next module, and that's the exciter. In other words, I'll play the section in a loop, and I'll adjust the exciter. And in this way, we'll be able to hear exactly what the module does. I'd like to mention something at this point, and that's that our recording is not very clean. There's lots of noise in the recording, and I actually did this on purpose. This could happen anywhere, especially when using the built-in sound cards of PCs and by directly attaching a microphone to them, as the preamps in these are not usually very good, just as in my case. And so you get some noise. But in a later lesson, we're going to see how we can remove this noise from a recording. I'll switch back to loop play, and then we'll adjust the amount of the exciter module.
This is example for voice-over recording. This is example for voice-over recording. This is example for voice-over recording. This is example for voice-over recording.
And so I think you heard clearly that by using the exciter, we certainly added brilliance to the sound by moving the amount up. However, we have to be careful that I don't adjust it too much, as much like on the equalizer, you can make it sound too bright and too harsh. So also here, I'll move it somewhat back. At this point, I'd also like to mention that if you are dealing with audio quality and you wish to have the best quality in your recording, then you are best to use high-quality monitors for this purpose. High-quality monitors allow you to hear the audio quality in great detail, and any adjustments will be clearly made without any errors. And so, if this is important to you, you should certainly look into very good quality audio monitors.